Welcome back to the show, everybody. Joanne Deal with the Better Business Bureau here. And something else we wanted to mention is if you have any questions, if your organization or your business wants to know more about the BBB and current scams we're seeing in the region, they can give you an email and you'll do a talk for them.
Absolutely. We spoke yesterday to a group of youngsters at a local church, and so we can do that again. We're always available for those kinds of talks because it's important to understand that while the temperatures are heating up, we're doing a follow-up story today on the cooling off rules of the Federal Trade Commission.
Right.
Last week we talked about right to cancel and click to cancel, and you should be able to cancel as easy as you order. This story also is an appropriate follow-up because you need to know how to cancel if you're going to make a purchase. I constantly try to remind you that the consumer is responsible for their decisions to purchase. You need to do your research before you say yes, before you sign anything. So the cooling off rule tells you that you have 72 hours for certain types of purchases.
Okay, that's not a lot of time either. So, you've got to really read that fine print. And when people are calling you about these issues, what do you hear most from callers in the region?
What we hear most is that you didn't know how to cancel, or you thought you understood the cancellation, return, or refund policy, and then you found out that it was impossible to accomplish. This is a particular problem with door-to-door sales. Remember that if you buy anything at your home under $25, you can't use this rule. If it's under $130 at a temporary location, you can't use this rule.
Okay.
But most importantly, you need to understand that with regard to cars, trucks, insurance, securities, and crafts, there are certain rules that apply, and you need to know what they are. A cancellation form should be provided specifically for home improvement. Many of the local problems are with home improvement contracts. Sometimes those jobs get abandoned, or sometimes you just didn't understand what you were agreeing to, or the contractor didn't explain it fully. So in this case, remember, if there's a cooling off rule and there's a cooling off period, you need to know how to use it and when it applies to your purchase. So remember, when you're making a purchase or deciding to buy a vehicle or a home improvement program or a home security program even, with the many cases we've had problems with solar panels, remember the cooling off rule is from the Federal Trade Commission. If you need us to come to a presentation on this or any other topic, you can call us at 387-4600. We still require that you make an appointment for drop-ins.
Right, and I think it's so important too to talk about that scam tracker in the last 30 seconds you've got on the BBB's website.
Absolutely. Scam Tracker is there for when businesses don't exist. If you experienced a problem with online or telephone sales or mail sales, remember the cooling off rule applies to all of those. But if you have a question or a problem, put it on Scam Tracker.
Thank you so much for being here. All these details will be on knoe.com right after the show.